There's a high chance of repeating patterns when wounds go unhealed. When you have wounds that have been inflicted upon you and those wounds go unhealed, there's a greater chance in you repeating that pattern. It's kind of like if you saw the pattern growing up of success and prosperity and attention to health and growth and expansion, then you are likely to repeat those patterns as well. The point that I'm making is the wounds that go unhealed are kind of like sores and cuts that are wide open that haven't had the opportunity to heal properly. And I want you to envision a cut that hasn't healed properly. It usually is susceptible to even more of an infection. It can cause even greater harm. You might need even more medical attention. And that's just with a physical example. But what about the wounds on the inside of us that we don't necessarily see exposed on a day-to-day basis, but are living within us in the shadows, secretly, walking around with us day to day, day in and day out. And we are normalized into going about our day, going to work, going to school, participating in activities, being part of specific social settings. And those wounds are just there accompanying us. And those wounds want to heal. They actually want to be addressed. And oftentimes we may avoid the work of doing just that. But your wounds can't heal unless you're willing to do the work. And it's okay if sometimes the method is to simply avoid it in the moment, just so that you can go about your day, just so that you can have a place of sanity. I remember speaking to a friend of mine who was like a school mental health counselor. And I remember her mentioning how our brain has the ability to sort of not remember a specific memory just for the sake of protecting us, right? So I don't remember the term specifically for it, but I do remember it was a mechanism in which where, the thoughts that probably brought you the most pain or the things that triggered you the most or memories that really put your spirit and your body in a state of shock were the ones that weren't that clear. They were usually foggy and a little separated from your thinking and your recall because it was just so traumatic. So your brain's method of sort of saving you from that pain and helping you avoid that pain is to sort of dismiss it from your memory. And I thought that was so powerful. Because look at how powerful our brain is that it would know, hey, this triggers something in us that doesn't really sit right with us and helps us to lose our equilibrium. So we're just going to avoid that really quickly. We're just going to file that back there. And that can happen momentarily and temporarily. But what happens when we actually need to address? What happens when we actually need to face the music about the wounds that we're walking around with, about the wounds that really require our healing, our facing of the music? And so if we go back to the example about the open wound and the open cut, nobody wants to walk around with an infected cut, right? Nobody does. At some point, you're going to be like, let me get this checked out. Let me get it looked at. You're going to look up ways and remedies or try to get advice from someone or get medical attention just to ensure that it closes up properly, that it doesn't resurface, or that it heals properly. Well, we should pay that same exact attention to our inner spirit, our inner selves, to the wounds that we've walked around with. Really having an in-depth conversation with ourselves or any, professional that can support us in the journey of saying, this really impacted me or this really affected me, and I want to get to the bottom of it. And that usually is not a pretty and comfortable process, but it can lead us to pretty and comfortable territory once we're willing to go through that rough terrain of facing our wounds, of being able to do the healing work, of trusting that when that inclination comes in and we're being guided and supported and told like, hey, pay attention to this. Because if not, then it just simply carries itself on to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. And we don't want to be full-time avoiders that don't address or don't speak up. We want to be prepared to face the music and to do so confidently and courageously. And that's what my hope is for you, that you're willing to do this confidently and courageously, willing to not pass the wounds down over and over and over again, willing to not just let them sit there and simply fester, but to listen to them, to lean into them, to want to figure out what's happening here and how can I do better. It's not always easy when you are dealing with life on a regular basis. And so it behooves you to take the necessary steps in order to function in that way, in order to evaluate what's going to be leading me into my greatest and highest good in this moment. How can I support my best interests, not only in this moment, but in future moments? How can I support my best interests, not only in what I'm trying to do and accomplish in my life right now, but also what I'm seeking to accomplish in my relationships, in my career, in my spirituality? It's all necessary and it's all part of our journey. But too often we avoid the healing process. Too often we avoid the wounds and we avoid the necessary work and we avoid looking at the picture even when it's not painted nicely. So we're not doing that any longer. We're not removing ourselves from the hard work and from the surgical operation that's often needed with our emotions and our wounds. We're willing to do the work, and I'm willing to do it and support you with it. And I just want to encourage you to continue to go forward, move forward. Don't avoid the hard work. Don't avoid the healing. Don't avoid the inspection. Eliminate those inner infections. Make peace with that. Write out letters to peoples and things and situations. Burn those letters. Pray over it. Meditate, elevate into the greatest and highest version of yourself that you possibly could, because that's how people successfully run companies and handle business, by saying, I cannot allow this to be the downfall or the cause of other things not functioning the way they need to. So I support you, I encourage you, and I uplift you on this journey. I trust that you are paying attention to the cues that are happening very early within this year. And in the midst of springtime, when things are growing and rejuvenating, that also includes your well-being. I just want to support you, encourage you, uplift you, and know that you are on the right path. Know that you are doing what needs to be done. Know that you do not have to be discouraged, knowing that greater is ahead. But we don't want to be the ones that have ran away from wounds that have festered into full-blown infections. We want to be steady on the grip of our life, willing to face the music, to do the work unapologetically, and to live our greatest life. And I think when we think about greatest life, we automatically think of wealth, and we think of vacationing, and we think of ease, and that's wonderful. But that comes even more amplified, even more 10x when we do the work, when we don't run away from the work, when we're willing to tell the truth about how we feel, when we're willing to tell the truth and face the music about what we desire and how we desire it. I'm rooting for you. I believe in you, and I'm just lifting you up. And so thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for clicking on the video. I don't believe in accidents, so I'm hoping that you were able to get something from this video. And I trust that you are on the right path. And I trust that you're doing the work. See, some of us are genuinely doing the work. And I salute you for that. And I'm cheering you on behind the scenes. Thank you for tuning in. If you need any resources, check the description below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.